Hello everybody and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a preview build of an upcoming game called Momentum by developer Projectile Entertainment. This is a physics-based platformer with a little bit of a racing component. Probably better way to look at it though is it's more like a marble maze with some sort of MC Escher-like crazy labyrinths and upside down topsy-turvy sort of level design. It's a bit of an interesting prospect doing a video for this one because as you probably know if you've been around my channel long enough, I have a real soft spot for Marble Maze style games, going back to the original Marble Madness or some of the newer stuff like Marble Blast Ultra. I've definitely been a fan of these sort of games throughout the years, and this one in particular sort of channels a little bit of a Super Monkey Ball vibe, only a little bit more serious and a little bit more in like a zen-like state. I'm thinking of Super Monkey Ball meets Bejeweled or something like that. But the thing that kind of makes me a little bit hesitant on this one is, well, first of all, it's a preview build. This is not entirely done. What we've got right now is a bit of a mishmash as far as I can tell in terms of level progression. The difficulty seems a little bit off-kilter, maybe a little bit skewed too hard for the first few levels anyway that, you know, we'll start to get into. And also the controls, although they're okay, there's some moments where I think they might also need quite a bit of tweaking as well. I was instructed to play using the Xbox 360 controller. I tried using that for a while, and I had to switch over to the keyboard and mouse, and I actually found it to be a slightly better experience for reasons that I'll go over shortly. But first, let's get into the video settings here. I'll show you what the options menu has to offer. The full suite of stuff that we could pretty much ask for here, honestly. We've got an FPS counter, oddly enough, in the corner there, fluctuating between 59 and 60, likely just because I'm recording. It looks like the recording's coming out at lock 60, though, so I'm not sure quite why. Resolution is reading out at 1920 by 1080, but I'm actually playing it in windowed mode at 1280 by 720, so I'm not sure why that's also a little bit off. But the rest of them seem like they're okay. I've got dynamic shadows turned on, full screen turned off, VSync off, anti-aliasing is at 2x. You know, it's fine. I've had no qualms with the graphics whatsoever. In fact, I think the best quality of this so far, and I think one of the reasons that I feel like this has solid infrastructure for, you know, having the potential to be really cool, is the presentation values are really, really high. It's just a lot of the gameplay stuff that maybe needs some working and smoothing out, but I think that there's potential with that as well, of course. Texture quality set to best, effects quality is best. I'm not actually sure what the effects would be other than maybe there's a couple of like shaders that show up, point you in the right direction. Shadow distance, that's a slider. I guess the longer you put it, or the further you put it on the slider, the further away you can be and still see shadows. And shadow cascades are at 4. I'm not entirely sure what that means, honestly. We've got our audio options, master music, ambient sound effect. This is perfect. This is everything I could ever want out of an audio options menu. Developers, take note, please. Everybody do this from now on. And this is a Unity game, by the way, in case you didn't know. So we can set our gamepad, keyboard, and mouse controls. Everything is individually modifiable, that's not a word. Tilt sensitivity, I've turned all the way up for the gamepad, and I found that it still wasn't enough even at max. I feel like it actually needed to go nearly double that to be where I wanted it to be, but I'll explain again. So we haven't even gotten to the actual game yet. We've got invert, vertical, and horizontal tilt axis. This is just stuff for people that are, you know, invested in switching around their analog sticks and stuff. I'm okay with it just the way it is. By the way, I should mention also, and this is the same controls all the way through all of these, I should mention also that if you have any issues with, you know, sensitivity to height or motion sickness, I feel like this is the type of game that could bring it out in you a little bit, because it actually is like a topsy-turvy game. We're into spinning reality inside and out a little bit here. And there's also a customized menu where we can pick which marble we'd prefer. We get a ball bearing, an emotive smiley face ball, a beach ball, a globe, a boulder, and I've unlocked a spiral ball by getting 6 bronze medals. I have played about, I don't know if I even said this already, but I've played about 20 minutes or so of this so far, and I am kind of encouraged to want to play more, because I'm absolutely driven by the idea of unlocking more of these spheres. For some reason, that element alone seems to get me really worked up about getting better at a game. The gear ball is freaking awesome looking, by the way. Really sweet animations on that, I have to say. Clock ball's not bad itself either. Gyro ball, that's pretty much my style too. I don't think any of these have any special powers though. They just look a little bit different. And Protosphere looks pretty awesome. Bit ball, we got like a sprite-based looking one. It's like maybe a Game Maker reference actually. And at Atlantean cage. Okay, I guess it's like a water ball. And then a hamster ball. Isn't that adorable? There's a hamster inside, and he'll run when you move. And last says lottery ball. I guess this is just random or something like that. Let's pick the spiral ball, just because I haven't tried that yet. I didn't have access to it before. And we'll go to the credits very briefly. I know you want to get into the actual gameplay here. I've been going for quite a while already. We'll do level select. I'll start us back at the beginning, so I can use all the help that I can get to not fail. It's all downhill from here. It's all ogre now. So we're going to tilt the world to roll the ball to the goal. And it is, like I said, sort of Super Monkey Ball style, where the world is what we're controlling, not the ball in this case. So it's a bit of an important element, because it actually does make a bit of a difference in how you'll think about the world that you're playing in. So, first things first, I'm going to be using the mouse anyway. And we start out with the camera to the side for some reason. I find that I do the best when I have this sort of a perspective, so I can see, you know, what's in front of me, what's behind me, and get a relative sense of depth. And all we had to do there was just slide the ball down the ramp into the goal. I know it sounds super simple, and it still took me far too long, but let's do it properly there. I find it's a little disorienting starting with the camera sideways for whatever reason. I'm not sure if it's just me, but learning to operate the camera in a direction other than behind the ball just seems like an extra added level of cognitive dissonance to trying to understand what the goal is and how you manipulate the world around you. Alright, so now we're going to start at the bottom of the hill and work our way up. Again, we start with the camera on the side. We can rotate it before we start, but I believe it defaults back to that position every single time. And then we're just going to do one of these. Thankfully, the developers had the foresight to make sure that we could see through the environment to some degree. Things do actually open up to some level of transparency. If we didn't have that, this game would probably be completely impossible to play. So now we go from baby steps to all of a sudden, we've got the central conceit of the game is revealed. We're going to be operating this ball in very strange elements and worlds here. So let's, again, turn our camera around first off. And I'm doing that by right-click and hold, and then using left-click to tilt the world. So what's, I think, really necessary is, as they just say there, sometimes it's necessary to adjust the camera. That is 100,000% true. And in fact, I think part of your mastery of this game is going to stem from your ability to both manipulate the world and the camera effectively at the same time. So then we go from that, which honestly was not that big of a thing, to this, which is a bit more daunting. I'll try and take it slow, because this can actually be already a little bit tricky at times. So let's readjust the camera here and get stuck a little bit there, turn it up, and rotate around here. Thank goodness there's railings, because if we didn't have those, we would be in a lot of trouble. So there are a couple of other controls other than just manipulating the world in the camera. There's actually a jump button on spacebar, if you can believe that, as well as a speed up and slow down, sort of like a brake and a turbo. And those are on, I think it's control is the brake. As you can see, I'm going a lot slower there. And I believe, what, shift is the booster? Seems like the booster there. Okay, so I'm probably never going to use the booster. Oh, and I've already gone off the rails. When you restart, by the way, on this level, you'll notice as oh, okay, if there's a checkpoint, rather, that's a different story. But yeah, it restarts you at 0 time when there isn't a checkpoint. But when there is, every checkpoint is going to still pick up from the last time that your timer was at. It doesn't reset at the checkpoint, it just keeps a total of your time. So it's definitely pretty wild. Trying to get a good time, and it's a weird balance between this game being sort of focused on you speedrunning, trying to go as fast as possible and be as accurate as possible, with also you needing to constantly slow down to adjust around these curves. This level is not the best example of some of the really most difficult challenges that we're going to face, but we'll see those soon enough. I really have to give it to them, though. The visual presentation is really, really stunning. I love the reflectivity, I love the dynamic lights, I love the background. I mean, the whole thing feels really well put together. The shadows that are coming through the ball as well, all of that looks great. And again, I think that's really where this game shines, is that it looks really polished already, even at the state it's in. The one thing that I was a little bit wondering, and this is where I started to get to a point where things were very difficult all of a sudden, I was wondering about if they needed to necessarily keep this sort of the rail theme as the main way that you interact with the world, because I was kind of hoping that maybe there were some areas that were a little bit more differentiated. Yeah, we've got to use the brake here, otherwise we're super dead. This is F or control, so I guess you can also use WASD or something to control things. But I was kind of hoping there'd be some more Super Monkey Ball style stuff where maybe there'd be, you know, wider open spaces instead of just these kind of thin corridors that seem to happen all the time. I'm going to take it super slow around this. I'm also trying my best not to overshoot, but again, with the speed that the mouse tends to move at, like, okay, that was super lucky that I didn't just lose there, but it's so easy to get completely out of control. And as we get to harder levels, I find that very often you just can't keep up with rotating the world around the marble fast enough. Gravity has an accurate feeling, bit of weight to it, and all of a sudden the ball goes from being totally fine to completely off the rails, you know, in 5 milliseconds, and you don't have much time to react or think or anything. You basically have to know what's coming up and be able to already adjust for it beforehand. And even the break doesn't really necessarily get you through all of those situations, as I've found out many a time already. I believe we just had a situation where the world was actually curving as it was rotating around too, so you've got a lot of different things to account for here. This is always a tricky one, and the faster and tighter the degree is on the radial turn, the more chances that you're going to throw the ball far away. There we go. That actually worked out kind of lucky, but as you can see, the par times here are 20, 40, and 1 minute. 20 seconds, of course, for gold, silver, and bronze, and I got 1 minute 20 seconds, so I'm a whole nother tier beyond where I should be for that level. I'm sure I could practice it and get a little better, and I think that's also the other reason that I was a little bit not sure quite how to react to this game, because I feel like maybe, just maybe, there's a bit of like a Super Meat Boy tendency to this, where as you start to understand how to sight read the levels, maybe your reaction time gets much, much faster. And this is another case where I just can't seem to move my hand fast enough to get the world to turn around the ball here. I'm using the brake, but I actually have to pick up my mouse and readjust it. And when you're trying to, you know, get this thing to turn very smoothly over a long period of time, that gets to be quite difficult. And the only way to get around that is to very, very slowly rotate the ball around the outside of that radius, and that is not a thing that I really have the luxury of doing. And of course, the other answer is use the controller, which I did, and found that I actually had an even harder time personally, because that also wasn't necessarily able to keep the ball and the camera all going in the same direction at the same time, or at least I wasn't able to do it successfully very often. Even just by this level, I was already having trouble with the controller, and actually found that I had a better time with the mouse. Mouse and keyboard, I guess I should say, because I am using my finger on the control key most of the time for the brake, of course. So we got 16.7. That puts us in bronze territory. I do definitely love the concept of opening up more and more levels as we go, potentially having multiple worlds to see, different backgrounds, but I would just hope that there'd be more than just this as the main primary central conceit, that we're just going to be turning these same labyrinths over and over again. I want to see some differentiation between the worlds, and maybe that is a thing that'll happen. Again, I'm not sure. Alright, so this is kind of a cool one. I kind of like the way this is going to rotate around, but I do need the camera to be a little bit of a better situation here, because we do need to be able to understand depth, and I actually I had to turn the camera so hard there that I ended up putting my mouse into my second monitor. Thankfully, the game does usually capture the mouse. It's just, I guess, there are certain moments it seems to lose it. And this is the one that I had the hardest time with before I eventually had to take it extremely slow. So you'll see, at first this looks like not that huge of a deal, but look at where the goal is. It's on the opposite side of the rails here. So we've got to actually go around this. No big deal so far. Then we reach this point, and you'll notice there aren't any more rails on the walls. So I've got to actually use my brake and try to very gently take this around. There's a very gentle and small little lip at the edge of each one of those walls, though, so that's at least going to help keep me in a little bit. This is obviously not as fast as I'd want to be going, but this is where we get to some troublesome territory. Look at how fast I have to adjust for this. Alright, I made it around that one, and now we've got to do a couple of turns in rapid succession, it looks like here. So as soon as this starts to go down, and a little bit more. Oh, I think I might actually have this. Okay, there we go. That actually was easier than usual there. Most of the time, the ball just flies off the rails. Okay, and one more turn. Of course, I've been using brake for this entire... Oh no! Disaster! Oh, I was so close. Well, we have a checkpoint, but it's not super useful in this case. I almost would rather, in this particular level, since it's a pretty short level, maybe just start me back at the beginning, but I guess that's sort of a personal taste thing, whether or not that's for you, how you want to navigate things. So we'll try that one more time. And this is pretty much the level of difficulty that you'll kind of come to expect the more you play. It seems like this is kind of where we want things to be in terms of, you know, how hard most of the levels seem to be. I'd have preferred a much slower slope into this level of difficulty, but I also understand that they want to show off all the elements of the game and where that's going to take you the further you get in. But I think if you're trying to sell the game on the premise alone, making it kind of a more accessible thing first for a longer period of time is kind of a big priority, at least in my taste. They also sell that the concept is that you'll have the freedom to be able to play it however you want, so if you want to, you just jump off the rails, but I have no clue how you're supposed to figure out how to measure and gauge depth, because I can't actually set the camera directly above, which is also a bit of a problem. I can't set it above or below. I have like a, what is this, like a 45-degree window here that I can go up and down from. So there's no way to really judge where I would land if I jumped off the track right now. And I mean, I could try it, but it would probably be the death of me. And, you know, if you're trying to make it so that you could do shortcuts, and hopefully they're not rewarding you with better, you know, the only way to get a gold is to do a shortcut like jump off the track. Hopefully that's not a thing. But if that is a thing, I'm not going to be able to play that. Like, that's just too much for me. I wouldn't want to play it that way anyway. These courses, I understand that you can sequence break them, but they don't seem like you would readily be able to do that without a lot of planning and trial and error, which I find that kind of frustrating personally in a game like this, where it's like you have a linear prescribed path that you need to go down, but you can kind of just cheat too and be rewarded for it. I don't know. It's nice that it's open, because some people probably would want to play like that, but I think I'm not of the echelon that would find that to be particularly fascinating. But that's just my particular opinion, and I understand that there are many people with many opinions, and, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, of course. This is just, you know, my 2 cents. But that's what I'm here for. I'm here to provide a little bit of criticism and feedback from someone who is honestly looking at this with a little bit of game background, or at least some critique background, I should say, not game. Implies that I have game design background. I really don't. But I have played thousands of games, if that helps at all. Alright, so I need to really slowly go around this turn and then hope that I don't have enough yeah, I can't keep up with the maze. I can't keep rotating it fast enough to get the ball around. It's very frustrating. I wanted to see there was what looked like a longer form level in the level select screen, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it to it. I think I was 1 or 2 levels shy when I was playing off camera. Can I just really gently go around this turn, please? I know what you want me to do, just let me go. Oh my god, why aren't you falling? How on earth is that suspended that way? Okay, so I thought the gravity was pretty accurate, but sometimes it does weird stuff like that. I mean, that was with the brake on, but I don't really understand the traction of the brake exactly, and then you just completely lose it there, because I wasn't able to turn it fast enough. You know what would be kind of nice, actually, is maybe to have a visual representation of what the brake looks like. Maybe just, like, show something clamping down, so you can kind of see, like, how much pressure you're putting on a sphere that's turning in place, so you can see, like, how fast it's about to stop. Might give you a better visual idea of, like, what kind of momentum you might expect if you were to press the brake over a long period of time. And I think, if anything, that's the one place this game might fall a little short, is the visual feedback sometimes can be a little bit lackluster, especially since, you know, I've been talking about the camera and all of that stuff, and the controls are maybe a little weird, but, you know, I don't also have a great idea of how it is that I'd be able to stop in time. And, like, why would I use the turbo here, of course? This is, you know, this is no race for me. I'm going on 4 minutes now. Anyway, why don't we back up a little bit? We'll go to the main menu, and I'll just show you the level select screen real fast. So it was, I think this one, Stairway to Heaven, looked kind of interesting. See, it's got all those dips in it, and I think that could be kind of fun to play. And I think that's where maybe I'm hoping that the developers will take this in the future, is to have more levels that are interspersed throughout this that are not just about being punishing, but just about having fun with the idea of the physics and being able to just play around with the idea of this ball flying through a labyrinth. I think that in itself is intrinsically fun enough that you don't have to necessarily make it always that punishing. And I think that's where Marble Blast Ultra really succeeded a lot. And to a larger degree also Super Monkey Ball. The levels can be very challenging and very punishing, but there's also a lot of levels that are just about, hey, here's this weird quirky gimmick, let's play around with that with the marble involved and just see if, you know, if you can capitalize on it. I want the levels to make me feel clever, and I think that's kind of a thing that I get out of Super Meat Boy a lot of the time. I want to feel clever by deciding and kind of manipulating things in a way that I feel like I've discovered on my own the right way through this path that's maybe not necessarily intended, if that makes sense. And with this, I could kind of cheese anywhere in any level, provided there's somewhere, you know, 180 degrees on the other side of reality that I could fall onto. This feels like it's so linear, there's not really a lot of latitude to explore with the concept. So that's kind of, I think, where I fall on this one. It's a cool concept, and I want to see it fleshed out, and I want to see it finished. Just right now, it's kind of rough. Look at that. That's actually a pretty cool camera shot there, the twist. They've definitely done a good job between the music and the visuals, though. So, anyway, I'm going to give you guys, of course, in the description, a link to the preview version that I'm playing right now, so you can go ahead and download this yourself. I'd love to hear your feedback and your opinions about the controls. If this is just my personal issue, maybe you guys have a much easier time than me. I am aware, again, that this is designed to be somewhat frustrating and punishing, but I think that given the demo is to show this off to new people and try to be, you know, hopefully accessible to sell you on the central premise, I feel like it gets a little too punishing just in this demo, personally. But let me know what you think in the comments. I am definitely curious. And of course, be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. That's every day a new indie game is what we do here on Indie Impressions. So if you enjoy the concept of finding out about a ton of new stuff and doing a little bit of a critique on them, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a whole bunch, and you will continue to get those videos popped into your YouTube box. So, thank you everybody for watching, as always. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got some useful feedback, or at least, you know, had a good time listening to me kind of work my way through the mental process of what I was thinking about this. It would be kind of neat if I sort of stopped everybody before they played the video and told them to go download the game, try it yourself, and then we could all see if we came to the same consensus. But a little late for that now, I understand. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching again. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all tomorrow.